Okay, everyone. Obviously, this semester we have learned a lot about what our impact as humans is doing to the earth, how our actions are affecting the way that the world works. And so I wanted to just take a little time out and talk about the solution space a little bit. But first, we'll dive into what I think um, is a big problem and go from there. So something that I've noticed is a huge problem that I've learned about in lots of my courses over my studies at Utah State. At Utah State, and especially within this course, is just how much textile waste we have as a society. The average US consumer throws away 81.5 pounds of clothes every year. Can you imagine what that would be like to just take that pile and just throw it away every year? Um, Obviously, we, well, I'll continue. In America alone, an estimated 11.3 million tons of textile waste, equivalent to 85% of all textiles, end up in landfills on a yearly basis. And so this just kind of blew my mind a little bit because obviously it's not often that we are taking again that amount of textiles and just directly throwing it into the garbage, right? But we see this through um, like trends and fads that come through the consumer market and don't stick. If it doesn't get sold, where does it go? To the landfills so that they can make more space for the new things coming through. Um, Other little things, just as like if we don't know how to like repair our own clothes, a lot of times, believe it or not, if people can't resew a button on, they just throw the clothes away. Or if they can't find any other good use for the clothes, they just get rid of them. And this can be everything from, when we say textiles, this is any form of material, everything from backpacks to t-shirts to towels and bedding and shop rags, all of that kind of things considered a textile. Um, so then back to the solution space, the so what could I do? I decided to kind of combine this environmental detriment thought process of our wasted clothes affecting the earth and affecting our environment, and also combine my concern and awareness of the severe need within our communities of people who maybe don't qualify for assistance but still can't quite provide for themselves, or people who are in the system and just don't have any um, good resources to clothing, things like that. There is an unbelievable, huge need that we could easily address on top of helping the planet. So it's a pretty simple solution. I decided to just do a clothing drive. Um, I considered it a clothing swap because the intention was for everyone to bring in their donations. We would swap the clothes. And then whatever remained, I would then take to other resources, right? So what I did was I made up a couple of flyers. I started with this flyer and put it out to several different communities and things, um, to kind of promote the donation aspect of the clothes. And I started this in like February. And then around March, I sent out this second flyer with a little more specific detail on what was going to be happening, when it would be happening, how people could volunteer, and just kind of an extra emphasis to put the word out there, and did that for the final month of gathering donations. So that was my first pickup, and there was a whole bunch of bags. Then we removed the tarp and added all these baby boxes of clothes, and then put the tarp back on and brought it back home. And so we had so many um, donations brought in. This picture doesn't really give it very much justice, but we used a church pavilion to organize everything. I just had volunteers come in and everyone just sorted clothing for gender and size so that it would be a little simpler for people to find what they needed. Um, this kind of shows, once it all got put together, we filled an entire church gym from wall to wall and everywhere in between. We had lots of shoes, handbags, and pretty much anything you could think of. We had a whole bunch of miscellaneous items for people to take. And it's crazy in my mind to think that if these clothes had not been brought into us, they would have just been dumped or taken to another donation center where, after a few months, if they weren't used, they would have been dumped. Um, I also was able to get in touch with the Stake Relief Society presidency in my church congregation. So basically, a set of 3 women who are really aware of needs in the ward or in the local community, but also who have access to funding that I do not have access to, provided by other church members. And they were able to put together a whole bunch of awesome food and snacks and treats for these families that were coming and gathering clothes, so that they were not only being like temporarily taken care of as far as like textiles goes, but they were physically being taken care of as far as nutrition goes, because that's another big need. But lastly, like I said, did not want anything to go to waste. And I had spoken to so many different community resources because my goal was to not let anything at all go to waste. I wanted this to not only help the community, but also to help, once again, with the earth. And this picture over here vaguely gives you an idea of how much we had remaining. About 1/3 of what was donated remained by the end of our clothing swap that stretched from 1 day to 2 days. So there was still quite a bit donated. And it all went to somebody's attic, because at somebody's attic, clients from various different resources in the county, in Cache County, can go there for free, and whatever they need, they can receive for free. But also, the things that don't go to clients go to the public at a cost that is very minimal. And all of those proceeds are also taken to other areas of need. So this last year, for example, they took $10,000 worth of proceed money and built a new playground for the Children's Justice Center. And so all the way around, it was helping the environment and helping our society. So the conclusion that I came to surrounding this solution space is that if we can make thrift stores a popular form of shopping, why can't we make clothing swaps a common annual community event? This could help our economy, our communities, and our global environments by reducing, reusing, and re-giving the things that we may not value, but that others might value. And lastly, I would like to leave y'all with a reminder that you're the consumer, and your consumer actions are what controls the market and what even controls the trends of the planet. And so the more we do out of good as a consumer, the better we can be doing for our planet. So that is all. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you again for all of the helping hands who pitched in. I appreciate you.